Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast where we've turned up late to qualifying, but it didn't even matter in the end because the Red Bulls retired, so we inherited all their positions anyway. I'm Mohamed and I'm joined by Youssef, and this is episode 18 where we're finally back with what's going to be a new season on here as well as a new season of F1 as we're doing the first race review of the season. Bahrain, or as like the Sky Sports commentators love to call it, Bahrain. So we're here. I can't even explain how much that annoys me, but I'm sure we'll get into that as well as other stuff. How did you find the first race then?
To summarize.
No, you can't summarize it without doing the 60-second summary.
No, that would be in the end. We can do it now, we can do it.
No, we do it at the start. Yeah, it's always at the start.
Okay.
Okay, no, you can get some general thoughts. Give it some general thoughts first.
No, I might as well do it now.
You want that? Okay, alright, we'll go straight into it.
We'll go straight
in with the 60-second summary, the first of the season.
Wait, you have to give me a second just to kind of calibrate.
No, I don't. That's not how this works. Alright, 3, 2, 1, go.
McLaren was shocking in qualifying. Daniel Ricciardo out in Q1, which, like, seriously, man, like, everyone hyped him up, and then he's out. Haas actually have, like, very, very good performance. Mercedes are terrible. Red Bull and Ferrari are up for it at the front. Surprisingly, Alfa Romeo have, like, very, very good pace. This is all based on, like, qualifying. The race was, like, the start was good. The race was kind of boring. The cars follow a lot better than they used to. Like, we saw the battle with Verstappen and, what's his name? Like, the closest I seen to that was Lewis and Rosberg. And then we've got Bottas in P6, surprising, Magnus in P5, 2 Red Bull retires at the end, and Lewis got a podium, which is shocking, and George got P4. What's surprising is everyone hyped up George, but then Lewis basically had better pace overall. But interesting is George gave Lewis a tow throughout qualifying. So, how are we done?
Oh my... 59.86.
I think I covered everything.
Wow. I'm just impressed how you stopped exactly on time.
Because I can see you going to press the button, that's why.
It's not magic, you could see it and there are things.
No, it's not magic, is it?
Was I actually going to go pause it at 60?
I think I did well in covering everything.
Like no, yeah, that was.
I didn't talk about McLaren in the race, but.
Yeah, but
you didn't need
there's
to.
Better things to talk about. All right.
But I think for summarize like a one or two, like maximum 3-word kind of summary for what you think kind of encompasses the race. I think that would be kind of a good.
I want to say no more domination. Partly.
Proof of concept. I think that covers.
Okay, I see.
Proof of concept. Because that was the whole like thing for today, is proving that can this new concept of F1 using ground effect and stuff work or not. That was the very interesting thing, because all the cars actually suffered from like bouncing and stuff because of the ground effect. Because the more ground effect you apply, the more bouncing you get. The less you apply, the slower you are. So it's kind of a balancing act of that. But it's interesting. I think the following definitely was a lot better. Like the closest was Lewis Rosberg, but that was in the same car. Whereas this one is a different car. You saw as well, like, very close performance. Midfield was very close as well. Surprisingly, the midfield was very, very close. Like, I'm talking from after Bottas.
Yeah.
Say from, like, so P7, or no, P8 at the time, down to kind of, like, P15. That was very close. So I think that made kind of an interesting race.
There was definitely, like, a difference in the order. And I was surprised because part of me has been thinking that, like, whatever team it is that gets it will run away with it. Obviously, everyone throughout, maybe not 2014 when everyone expected it, but 15 to 21, you'd always say, Red Bull have a chance of winning this championship. It's not just going to be Mercedes. Ferrari also have an opportunity here. And then it never happens. Or if one of them has a chance, it will be Ferrari in 17 and 18, but then otherwise it never happens. So the battle's always between the Mercedes. And everyone always says, like, you know, these other drivers, they'll catch up to Mercedes eventually, and they never did. Now, if what I'm hearing about Mercedes is true, and obviously we've seen that Red Bull and Ferrari are quite close on pace, there could actually be the three-way battle.
It is interesting, because Mercedes were talking about how they have almost 3/4 of a second to find in pace.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they were off by like half a second in qualifying.
They were saying
Lewis
half a
was-
second a lap in the race as well.
They were losing almost a second at one point in the race before they changed their tires. But it's interesting. What I found interesting with Mercedes is Lewis got the preferential treatment very obviously, I think, in terms of his pit stops, in terms of George gave him a tow throughout the week. So it'll be interesting to see did Lewis get like the preferential treatment in terms of pit stops and all of that because he was ahead, because he started ahead. Or
Oh, right, yeah.
in terms of qualifying, is it just 1 week like Red Bull used to do a week for like race essentially like
I think they
would
did
do-
that with Bottas as well.
Yeah,
Like
yes.
1 week someone gets a toy and the other week the other one.
Yeah, so
But in the race, I think what they've done historically is whoever's ahead gets the first stop.
yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking is Lewis probably got that, but it's interesting in the sense that in qualifying, is it just George kind of takes a back seat, Lewis is prioritized, or is it more the case random kind of, Lewis will go, you go next week essentially. That would be
Yeah.
interesting to see. But what's shocking is Mercedes' pace, I think. We have to comment on that. Because we
Definitely,
spoke so
yeah.
much, as soon as I saw it, I was like, we spoke so much about the off-season, about how Mercedes had so much time to develop, how they're going to be so much better, how Red Bull is going to be a midfield team.
Yeah.
And I think that turned out like...
Yeah.
I don't think
Mercedes
I've ever
is-
predicted something so far off.
Wow, okay then.
Because Red Bull, we said Red Bull's going to be a midfield team.
No, I'd say Mercedes right now is where I thought Red Bull would be.
Exactly, yeah.
So, like, I've actually written down just before qualifying what I thought the order would have been. And I put Ferrari and Mercedes basically where Ferrari and Red Bull are now. Then Red Bull like a little bit behind. I thought Aston Martin would be the best of the rest, which is looking horrific at the moment. Because I thought Aston Martin and Alpine would be like, swapped around. McLaren I thought would go a little bit backwards, but not horrifically. I thought AlphaTauri would go a little bit backwards. Williams would go forward. Alpine would drop horrendously, and then Haas and Alfa Romeo would be at the bottom like they normally are.
Surprisingly,
But-
Alfa Romeo are quick.
Yeah, both of them have recovered incredibly. Like maybe that's even because of the regulation change now.
Like
the amount of
Haas
time
is
they get.
very interesting. Like I was gonna comment on that. It was very interesting. I'm very happy for Haas, obviously.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
finally, Drive to Survive has to put a Gunther Steiner episode at the beginning next year with Haas finishing P5 after
Yeah,
the struggles of fighting.
Definitely.
And a comment on Drive to Survive. Everyone I've spoken to since our episode came out has said the exact same thing we've said essentially that. Season 1 was good, Season 2 was good, Season 3 was alright, this season was bad. Everyone agrees that now is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, Alfa Romeo and Haas were very surprising. I thought, to be honest, Williams and Alpine would be at the bottom. I was hoping Williams would kind of jump forward a lot. But
Yeah,
surprisingly, they
unfortunately,
still
yeah.
have the pace to go into Q2 relatively comfortably.
Yeah.
Like Albon
yeah.
was P13 and it wasn't like a very big deal for them. So it seems the car has a lot of pace. But we'll see kind of how it goes. Haas was very surprising. They're I'd say Haas is third in the constructors.
I know it's insane. Like Schumacher got exposed slightly. I mean, to be fair, he got spun around. He didn't even lose that much time getting spun around on the first lap. To be fair, but like Kevin Magnussen's done an incredible job in that car, and that car must be very solid for him to be up there.
But it's also, do you think, it's interesting, is it more like the difference in him and Mick? Mick obviously hasn't raced in kind of the midfield or let's say at front or raced close to anyone for a long time. So it will take him a bit of time to kind of adjust to that. But it's also the case of experience of knowing where to kind of position your car, how to react on the first lap. Because Magnussen has been in a few kind of scuffles at the
Yeah,
first lap.
Magnussen, as much as he's like a likable guy now and everyone loves him, pretty much like Hulkenberg.
No
I
one
feel
used-
like as
no one
soon-
used to like him.
No one. I used to hate him personally as well because the thing is, he was very much like a Max Verstappen kind of guy, like move around.
Yeah,
on
but
the
it wasn't
braking,
even that good.
Slightly dangerous. Yeah, he was nowhere near as talented. But
Like
on top of
Verstappen,
that,
they
do
kind
the
of
same
accept
thing.
it because he's good.
I wouldn't accept it from Max either, to be honest. But I just found both of them slightly dangerous drivers. I just didn't like watching them. But I feel like now he's quite likable. He released a book as well, actually, about
He has, he has a baby now.
Yeah, so his book is about like his career and stuff, and how basically he's just been messed over by like all of the team principals that he's ever worked under. Like weirdly, it's like the detail he goes into, it's obvious that he was never expecting to be back in Formula One, because some of the stuff he says is quite interesting, to be fair. Like, there's no way you'd be saying that if you were under contract.
But he is back, and I'm happy he's back.
Same,
I'm happy
yeah, it's a
Nikita
solid
Mazepin's
performance.
gone. Everyone's happy
Oh,
Nikita
yeah.
Mazepin's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
And he set up a foundation to talk about how. That's too funny, man.
Obviously, like, yeah, you don't want drivers to be, just because of a certain political situation in someone's country, doesn't mean that
They should
the
be.
driver of
Yeah.
the country, like, just because you're born there doesn't mean you agree with what your
I
government's
agree,
doing.
I agree.
But ever since that video came out of him in the car on Instagram, no
Him in
one's
the car?
liked him, bro. Do you not see that?
No.
This time last year, just before the start of the season, it was posted on either his own Instagram story or his friend's Instagram story of him, like, groping.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
There we
okay,
go,
okay,
yeah. I'm not even going to chat too much about that. But, like, ever since that point, his career was in the bin.
Yeah, I think everyone knew at that point. But it is interesting. I don't think everyone hated him as much until it came out that his dad was threatening Günther Steiner on thingy on
Yeah.
website. I think that kind of ended anyone like anyone who liked him. It ended there, and
It
everyone
got
started
from
deciding.
bad to worse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you still liked him after that video, then there's actually something wrong with you. But we'll move on because we don't want to chat too
McLaren?
much about Kevin Magnussen.
Kevin Magnussen, I meant Nikita Mazepin. Yeah, McLaren.
I
what has
think
happened
we'll
to
go
them?
from the bottom and go up, in terms of like performance.
Okay, yeah, we'll have some general stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah. We'll talk about general pace first and then get into like.
I think
what
McLaren
happened.
was shocking. Like, obviously, I was speaking to my friend, and he was shocked. He was like, "What's happening?" He's like, "Daniel Ricciardo is going to be the third
I
this
was
year."
enjoying myself so much, you know. I was messaging people in the group chat like, "Lando's last." Half of you must be crying right now.
It's very short. Like, obviously, I knew about their brake issues and how they couldn't finish a race distance. So obviously, the two cars finishing, that's an achievement in a sense.
I guess, yeah.
But obviously, they haven't had time to work on performance. So it would be interesting to see. The car obviously has the potential. We saw that testing. So now I think once they figure out what the issue is with the brakes, figure that out, solve that, perhaps then they can start to focus on performance and bring in a few upgrades.
Yeah. Interestingly as well, I feel like a lot of people are noticing that the bottom, it might have been 6 drivers.
The bottom 6 all had Mercedes engines.
Yeah, whether that's finishing positions, we'll check just now, but during the running, we saw the bottom 6. I mean, now obviously the bottom 6 is filled with a couple of retirements, but we've got here the bottom 6 finishers, we've got Mercedes engine, Mercedes engine, Mercedes engine.
All of them have Mercedes.
All the way up to Haas, so all the way up to...
Yeah, but it's
Mick Schumacher.
interesting, all the Red Bull engines, 3 out of 4 all retired.
Yeah, I mean, there were different issues, but we'll get onto that in a bit once we get nearer the top end. So, yeah, McLaren, awful
Shocking.
from them. I mean,
Shocking.
actually, here's a question for you, right? So if everyone's got all of these philosophies now, and they're like, you know, they've done a bit of testing, but they don't really know these cars too well yet. They don't understand how they'll behave at different tracks and all of this. How much will the order change? Do you mean from race to race?
I
As
go in,
people
yeah.
unlock the potential in their cars.
I think it's interesting because you can see in like the different sectors of Bahrain, you can see kind of the quick parts are like mostly dominated by straights, and then there are like I think is it sector 2, sector 3 that has quite a few twisty turns, quite
Sector 2.
slow. Yeah, that one a lot of people were gaining time on that, so that would be an interesting thing to see, like a race like Monaco, for instance, or a race that's dominated by kind of the slow corners rather than like the long kind of straights. So think Hungary or something along the lines.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see how cars react to that. I think cars that were traditionally like Red Bull was traditionally better on those types of tracks
Yeah, yeah.
might be a disadvantage from now on. But it's interesting to see because you can start to see like if a track is dominated by that, those cars will obviously have an advantage because of their philosophy.
Yeah. So that kind of track will expose who's better where, I guess.
But realistically speaking, those are very few tracks that are majorly dominated by that. And you can obviously offset it because it's usually at one sector with 2 sectors, kind of you have the long straights and so on.
Yeah.
So you can, that's the thing, you can make up for time in sector 1, sector 3 for instance, and lose a bit of time in sector 2, or vice versa, whatever.
But I'm just thinking if So, we'll leave it. We'll get on to... Actually, no, screw it. We'll do Mercedes now. Basically, the talk about Mercedes is they've got high degradation. They're losing, a second per lap or whatever in the race. But once they get the right upgrade, they need to figure out what the problem is first, obviously.
They said they'll figure out the problem. They know what the problem is, yes.
Okay, well, what I've heard is even if they figure out the problem now...
They can't fix it for a few races because
they can't fix it until the start of the European season, which is like a month away.
Yeah, so that's the thing, I think what people don't realize is usually the fixes take like a week to do because they're minor issues.
Yeah.
So usually the issues you have with the car are very small that you can kind of fix it in 1 week.
Like set
But now the case is a case of everything's new, all the philosophy is new. So if there is an issue, it's a massive issue, and it's the case where it's gonna take a few weeks of research and development to come back with a part that works, and it might not work perfectly first time. There's gonna be like a lot of development. It's gonna be very rapid development. So I wouldn't be surprised if kind of every few races, every 2-3 races, you see someone come with a significant upgrade.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, I think every race you're gonna see someone with an upgrade. It might be a bit small, but every few races you're gonna see someone with a very big upgrade, trying to kind of fix what the problem is. And I'm very excited for this because by mid-season you're allocated more time for research, and wind tunnel testing time and stuff, and it's allocated based on where you finished. And this could be interesting because Haas obviously and Alfa Romeo, they were at the end and they had way more time than everyone else and they utilized it very well. It's interesting, Williams had a lot of time over a lot of other teams, but they didn't use it as well. Red Bull obviously did not. Red Bull and Ferrari did very well in that sense. McLaren is just shocking. I'm very sad for McLaren. Like, what do you say? McLaren finished 15th and 14th, and you're like lucky you even finished and you were close to that, you know?
Yeah. I'd say in general, I think, so we've covered most of the main things with the midfield, so we can just go straight to...
We forgot to mention Zhou Guanyu.
Zhou Guanyu,
I don't know how you pronounce it. But he likes to be called Zhou Guanyu, not Guanyu Zhou. But anyways, he got points on his first race. Impressive.
He did, yeah. He got a little bit lucky with the retirements, as did everyone. But it's solid. It's a solid performance because he's not even, well, I say not even that far off. Okay, I mean, the timings will be based on the safety car and stuff. But, he's not horrifically off Bottas. If Bottas finished 6th and he finished 10th. That's a solid for a first race.
Yeah, I think it's alright in that sense. I think he was quite off the pace in terms of qualifying. He was a bit off the pace in terms of race. But you see that with Mick Schumacher as well. I think it's more the case of you're trying to manage the car. The car is a very different car to drive from F2. First time kind of driving in F1, obviously. So it is very intense. It would be interesting to see how he compares to Yuki. Because Yuki did well on his first race, did a few overtakes, and then disappeared for the rest of the year. But Yuki's back in the points, which is surprising.
True. Solid. I mean, he was being outshone by Gasly until Gasly's retirement, which is what caused the safety car. He had an NGUK issue, which is unrelated to what happened to the Red Bulls, which was actually, do you know what happened to them?
I know one of them, Perez, his engine just died.
Yeah, so basically what happened was they've got an issue with the fuel pump. And it's not the main fuel pump, but it's like a secondary fuel pump where it helps take out the last bit of fuel from the engine.
Okay.
Which explains why it happens right at the end of the race. And the thing is, it's, you can blame Red Bull for this, but some people are blaming Red Bull. You can't blame them because it's a standard part. It comes from an Italian company, it gets given to everyone. So, interestingly, there were issues with this a few days ago. McLaren had to change one because they found some sort of problem with it. And
so it might be a case of the company needs to be changed essentially.
Maybe, or they need to change the part, but either way, it sounds like, obviously they're going to have to try to deal with it. But even if they replace the part or whatever, they could potentially still have the issue.
It might be the case where that part maybe is run down a bit or is in a hotter place of the engine than other engines, so maybe it faces a lot more wear. But that's one thing you have to think about is if the part is on a cooler side of the engine, I don't know where it is, but I'm saying, for instance, if it's on a cooler side of the engine, then it might not wear as much as if it's on a hotter side of the engine. That might be a reason for this. But one thing that they highlighted I find very funny is they were talking throughout the race about how Red Bull poached a lot of Mercedes execs from like the engine part and all of this, and how like the last 6 cars are all like Mercedes and all of this, and then Red Bull retired 3 out of their 4. I just found it very ironic. Like I'm not like a big Mercedes fan, but I find it ironic that you speak so much about it, and then like 3 out of your 4 cars retire. No Mercedes car like
it was
retired.
so funny. There was a lot of irony in it because there was after getting P2 in qualifying, Max was interviewed about how he felt about Mercedes being off the pace, and he was like, "Oh, I'm very disappointed," like with a massive smile on his face, and he walks off, and then he basically finishes.
And then Mercedes, the Twitter account, they commented.
Yeah. Mercedes tweeted coincidentally almost exactly around the time that the Red Bulls retired, saying.
I think they posted it before. I don't think they actually posted it after. I'd be surprised.
It was incredible timing. Obviously, they knew exactly what they were doing, and that was great. On top of that, as well, Christian Horner and the word karma were both separately trending, but both in the top 3, just after the race. So like, not hashtag Bahrain Grand Prix, not like anything else. Like Christian Horner, I'm pretty sure was number 1 trending on Twitter, and then karma was number 3 trending on Twitter, in the UK at the time of the end of the race, which, I mean, it was beautiful scenes, to be honest. I was having a great time. I actually really enjoyed it.
Do you feel bad for George Russell? He waited so long to get in a Mercedes to win, to get a chance to fight, and now Mercedes are happy. Like Lewis was actually celebrating. Like he was buzzing to get P3. That is, I think that says everything you need to know about the pace of the car.
Yeah, because clearly he wasn't lying about we're on pace with not on pace with the Alfa Romeos, but like, there or thereabouts, and being, losing a second a lap and not being in the chance to fight for race victories, because at the start of the race he was like right behind Carlos. He had DRS. His tyres degraded, and then that was it. He dropped off.
I think it's interesting, like, you've got the top 4, they're fairly close.
Yeah.
Obviously, during the race, Max and Charles were way closer to each other. And then I think Carlos was he didn't keep up, but I'm not sure if it was the case the team told him not to push to preserve his tyres, or
maybe
he couldn't keep up the pace. That would be an interesting thing to see over the next few races. And then Perez was just far behind them. Like Carlos was kind of close. Perez
got finessed by Lewis at the start, and he wasn't involved since.
Yeah, he did overtake Lewis, but then he didn't really get that close to Carlos for a bit.
No, yeah.
And then Mercedes are kind of the case where they can't keep up with the top 4, but they're still well ahead of whoever is behind them. So I've got like the Magnussen and Alfa Romeo after that. But I think that kind of shows you've got top 4, the 2 Mercedes in the middle who are kind of going to stay there because they're not close enough to fight at the beginning or slow enough to fight behind them. And then I think you're going to have 1 or 2 cars that are safe, so Magnussen and Bottas. If they keep performing, I see them probably staying ahead of the midfield. And then everyone else kind of fighting for the rest, essentially.
Yeah. I feel like those 2 that you're mentioning, like the Magnussen and Bottas, will change every race.
Yeah.
But I see that happening, we'll see. I think also worth mentioning as well, Verstappen had another issue completely unrelated with the engine.
Power steering.
It was something to do with his steering. He said that it felt heavy, and then it was worse when he was driving quickly.
Yeah, every time he drove quickly, he got it was a problem with his power steering.
Just another issue for Red Bull, to be honest. It wasn't looking good.
But that's the thing. These issues are a lot easier to fix, let's say, than like an issue with the philosophy of the car.
True, very
like,
true. Actually.
They can easily fix something like the power steering. They can easily fix an issue with the engine, like a part like this. Obviously, it'd be if they know like it's a cause because of the heating on this side or the par's wearing very quickly and all of that stuff, they can change it, say, every race, or keep monitoring it, like actively monitoring it rather than passively. But they can get a lot easier on top of these issues.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Mercedes, for instance, it's more about the case of they're so far off they can't do anything.
Yeah, the no side pod trick really didn't work for them. But
It's interesting because I like the concept, and it'd be interesting to see if they can actually get their issue. Actually, isn't the no side pod thing. Is they're losing all their time going into the corner. Essentially, what's happening is when they go into the corner, they get a lot of bouncing, and so they can't. The drivers have to go in a lot slower than they normally can. So they lose a lot of time. McLaren has a fairly similar issue in terms of they lose a lot of grip, but it's not the same thing. But, but essentially they lose a lot of times, both teams, in the corners because McLaren, they don't have a lot of grip in terms of the tires. But the interesting part of Mercedes is the bouncing. So if they can solve the bouncing into the corner, they will gain back that time essentially. They still, I think they're losing some time on the straights.
Yeah, I feel like
But that can be improved. But like if they solve the bouncing issue, there won't be like a second off per lap. But they can kind of get close with strategy and stuff. Because you saw with strategy, Max closed down like I think it was a 6 second gap to nothing. He was on
something like that. Yeah, I was so
Charles's gearbox. 6 seconds. It was 6 seconds in one lap. Yeah, it was interesting as well. Like the compounds they got for the race were a lot tougher than they got the C3s Pirelli.
Yeah.
But I think they should have gone for way softer than that. Because of it.
Softer than that, it was a 3-stop race, which I want to
Yeah,
talk about
but
as well.
at the
3
same
stops in a race.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to look at the fact that everyone was struggling for grip. Did you see people were coming out of the pit lane because the cover, like the blankets, are a lot lower the temperature. People are coming out of the pit lane and like warming up their tires on the straight.
Yeah, they were weaving because Lewis, I think, was. He
Aston
wasn't the
Martin
first
did
to
it as
hit, but
well.
one of the first, and then he
pitted
went
first.
Yeah, he completely like straight off.
Yeah, he was the first to
turn
pit,
one.
and then like what's his name as well? Pit. Aston Martin. Lance Stroll came out and was literally weaving to warm up his tires. I've never seen that in a race before, but it's because
I
there are
might have
compounds.
seen it. I feel like it's happened before, but it's very
Not
rare. Very rare.
on the they don't come out and like start weaving like that. No, I don't think I've ever seen that. It's because the blankets are a lot colder this year.
Yeah, they've changed the temperature, so I think that the plan is to get rid of tire blankets completely at some point.
That would be like, imagine like a car coming out and doing like this. Won't be surprising like in a few years. But pit stops are a lot slower as well. Red Bull were very good though, 2.4, 2.5.
I saw the leaderboard. I think McLaren was top, which is completely useless for them. But yeah, Red Bull still have solid stops, but the average stop is looking like how it was in like 2012 or something.
Yeah,
or
2.9 something
or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be surprised. I think they're bringing it down, but I don't think we'll ever see like high 2.1, 2.2, whatever. Again.
I don't know. I mean,
they
might eventually. Because to be fair, you've got to think about it. Before 2017, the tyres were light compared to what they are now.
Yeah, they're like
after 2017,
heavy.
They became huge, and they still managed to do sub 2 second stops with them, which is insane.
Yeah, but these tyres are way heavier than the ones from last.
They are a bit more awkward because they're bigger now, I guess. But
they're not just bigger; they're a lot heavier. I think what was it like? One tire is like 23 kilos or something.
Yeah, but you can deal with the weight eventually with training and stuff. And
yeah, no, but like if you're on your knee,
well.
if you're on your knee and you're trying to lift like 23 kilos and like slot it onto a car, and you're like McLaren had the quickest one and the slowest one probably.
Maybe I
was it? Yeah, McLaren Lando got like the slowest one where the car stayed there for like 5 seconds. They couldn't put on the back right tire.
Oh yeah, I think I remember this.
Yeah, but Crofty I think mentioned they had the C3s. I think they should have gone for a bit softer, bit better grip.
Well, I've got.
What's a four-stopper? Four-stopper, interesting.
I wouldn't be able to keep
It's
up.
actually very surprising the number of pit stops that actually, like, very surprising. Because usually you get like 2 stops on this race, but I think most people went for 3.
1 stop still. 2 stop would be ideal, yeah.
Like last year, Lewis did 1, but this year people did 3.
Yeah, 3 was too much. I was so surprised to see them coming in every time. Like it threw me off.
I don't
but
like.
I like it. I think.
No, I like it.
I like it too, but
yeah, because it's a bit more interesting. Yeah, I also like what I found a bit weird is Mercedes. They pitted Lewis for the mediums at the end. Lewis came out. He went from losing a second. He basically wasn't losing a second at that point. I'm not sure if he was gaining time or if he was just like, I think he was gaining a bit of time.
Right.
And then you think at that point they pit George because no one's behind him and no one's ahead of him, and they kept him for like 5 more laps or so. Why? Pit the guy. Pit the guy, man. What the hell? Surprisingly, Ferrari didn't do anything wrong with their pit stops, which I was very surprised.
Yeah. Who was it? Someone said, I think it might have been a tweet. Someone said like Red Bull constantly pitting was just trying to get Ferrari to do their classic Ferrari thing of completely bottling the strategy and then giving them the win anyway, which was quality, but somehow they didn't do it because before the season, I think a lot of people I spoke to, they trusted that Ferrari would get a good car, but they said I don't trust the Ferrari management to be able to handle
I think
Carlos
they mentioned that during the
Leclerc.
thing.
Yeah, they said they wouldn't be able to handle the two
relationship.
drivers if they're quick, or they might not have a good strategy, or they might not be able to do certain things. Like there wasn't a lot of faith in the Ferrari team.
I think
but-
historically speaking, by historically I mean like the last 10 years, they've not been very good.
But yeah, true, definitely. So it's understandable, but they're back now. Love to see it. Charles actually, if we get onto that, he had Max in his back pocket, completely.
I enjoyed watching them together way more than I ever enjoyed him and Lewis going at it, because with Charles you kind of trust that he's not going to back down. Like
Yeah,
Lewis
but here's the
will
thing.
just back down and be like, I'll get him on strategy or this, but Charles will go like, if we're gonna hit each other, we'll hit each other.
Yeah, someone tweeted that. I saw it.
I actually
he was like,
really like
Max
that.
knows he's not going to try all of his like bullshit on Charles, because if he does, he knows Charles will just kill them both as well. Like they're both just not having the answers. But the thing is, I don't think Max was himself today, like or yesterday or whatever. Like in general, in all aspects, I don't think he was himself. There was the radio stuff. Obviously, I'm not like he was complaining a lot, but like.
But he usually complains a lot.
He usually complains a lot, and they do the same thing with Lewis. Like, if someone's winning, they love showing their radio of them complaining a lot, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's fair enough, I'm not going to read too much into that. His driving, completely baited every time. Like, just goes steaming into turn 1, then gets overtaken into turn 4.
See, that's
every
what's surprising.
time. Then, no, wait, I got to keep going with this. He didn't do his classic Max strategy of going down the inside of turn 1 and then just shoving him off the track. That was interesting to not see that this time. Maybe it's because of the new race directors, I don't know, but he wasn't doing that. Then, on top of that, he gave Leclerc the inside line into turn 4 once. Like, normally Max will completely defend the inside line of his life and then force you to go around the outside, then shove you off the track. Even if he's not shoving you off the track now, he still didn't, like, he let Leclerc down his inside at one point into turn 4. Like, I don't know if he was giving up or something, but, like, normally you would never see him do that.
Let's go one by one. What was the first one? Radio stuff.
Yes.
We can't really say much
We're
about it.
bypassing that, yeah.
Yeah, the second one was him doing the same thing.
Basic,
I think that was surprising because he was also... I don't think he was close enough to try and overtake at any other part of the circuit, like the track.
No, but he could have tried to set up the move into turn 4. Like he
True.
was coming from so far back.
See, that was
Like,
the surprising
so
thing.
far
He
back.
was going from so far back, and obviously Charles would have a much better, like, he'd have DRS and he's gonna overtake you. And he do it a few times. That was a bit surprising because I thought he'd defend a lot harder later on. But with the DRS, after first time you'd realize that, okay, he's gonna have DRS, the DRS is quite strong here, I can't do it. That was surprising. But the third one, I think we'll connect, was, what was it?
The forcing off the track.
Oh yeah, so I think that's related to new stewards.
Right.
I think also Charles, he knows that he can't really do that as much with Charles.
Will
Because-
Charles just leave his car there to get hit into or something?
Yeah, you don't see it. Like, Charles was at one point, they were so close, and Charles is moving in, he's not moving out, man. And I like that. Lewis did that once last year that I really enjoyed, was Brazil. He had that mindset of, he was on it. Like, and Lewis said, this year I'm going to be way more aggressive with my driving.
Oh, I saw the quote, yeah.
And I think we need that. We need Kevin Magnussen, bro. We need some...
To be fair, Charles,
It's
like, you
too
could
clean.
tell from the start, like, instantly, he cuts straight across Max and takes the inside line, because you know you don't leave Max, like, what Bottas did in Mexico. Like you don't give him
What
space.
Lewis did in Saudi.
When was what?
In Saudi in the restart, he went to cover off.
He was
Gave
on.
Max the.
Yeah.
Bro. That's just
That's the
embarrassing.
thing, you don't give him any space. Like, he goes
7-time
straight
world
across.
champion.
8 times should be, but anyway.
7 times. He only has 7 at home.
Of course. So what it is?
Okay, don't cry.
The last point.
Don't cry.
The last point. The inside line.
The inside. I think that was surprising because I think he did that at the end, but essentially they did it like 3 times back to back, and Max by the last time Max had run out of you can tell after that his tires were gone, he couldn't keep up after that, so it was interesting. He was on the newer tires, but at the same time the way he was attacking, he was just ruining his tires. He ruined his tires way.
Yeah, bro,
way
that
too
lock
quickly.
up as well. This is what I mean. He was in his back pocket. He went down, got baited into the inside line, and then just locks up into turn 1. Just have some patience, man. What are you doing?
But see, that's the thing. He's back to old Max. No.
Yeah, there it is. Oh no, yeah. So it was just after the first set of pit stops, wasn't it? So he was on a new set of softs, and Charles was on a used set of softs.
Mm-hmm. And he still couldn't overtake. But it might be the case of Charles had the benefit still of Ferrari having a much quicker car.
They're definitely faster on race pace. Interestingly, when I watched the F1 posted side by side of their qualifying laps, Verstappen had it completely. For the entire lap, he was faster. He was a bit slower in the middle sector, to be fair, but he had pole up until the last corner. And then that 10th gap that you saw that Charles got pole by, that was all in the last corner. So realistically, you should have had pole, but I do think the Ferrari
He would have
has the
overtaken.
faster.
He has the faster car. But they would have screwed up strategy because Ferrari. But it is interesting how powerful the undercut was.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this could spell obviously for a track other tracks, it would be very interesting to see high speed ones. What we can see, obviously, tracks high degradation as well. You get multiple kind of pit stops. It'd be very interesting to kind of see what's going to happen. I'm very interested for Saudi. I'm very interested to see these cars in Saudi. Because that track is beautiful, man. I know I criticized it, and I still criticize the safety aspect, but the track is beautiful.
Full-on obsession with it.
It's so... But that's I think the way if they change the way they film it, I think everyone would love it. If they,
What do you mean the way they film it?
You know how instead of just seeing onboards,
Yeah.
you know how they can try and just the camera goes with the cars as it goes.
Oh yeah.
If they do that, because there's so many kind of if a camera goes with the car as it goes through the, that long twisty section, and the camera's just going wee all the way down. That would look so nice, man. That would actually be amazing,
I'm trying to imagine it now, to be fair. It would be...
Be very nice.
Yeah, no, it would be good.
Because it's a
We'll see what they
very,
do.
very quick part of the track. It's very interesting because I actually think they can go probably a bit quicker down that side. With the ground effect and stuff. Because they're going very quickly down that sector.
Yeah.
So they can probably gain a bit of time down there. We weren't very far off last year's pace. I think in terms of qualifying or a second or two off.
Would they... Oh, I guess to be fair, it would be less drag, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Over the top, so if they're doing... yeah, no, that's a good point, actually, yeah. Well, speaking of cameras and stuff, though, what do you think of the new graphics?
Interesting. No, the camera in the helmet is interesting. I think it makes you
I love
appreciate...
that.
I think it makes people who say, I can drive a Formula 1 car, think about it again and be like, you can't drive a Formula 1. But the graphics are a bit... I actually prefer the older ones a lot.
Really?
These ones are interesting, but I feel like it's a bit boring.
I like it, but there's I don't know. It's there are certain things that could change.
The color scheme isn't that nice. It's okay.
They could be
It's not
resized
impressive.
in some places. It's it's a bit We'll
That's
get used to it.
what I'm saying. You get used to it, but it's not that great.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the logo, to be fair. I remember when the logo changed, everyone hated the logo change.
Everyone still hates the logo. Yes. See, they have the colors, the Mercedes colors, they support Mercedes. Pirelli have the Mercedes colors on their cover picture on Twitter, so they're Mercedes fans. They should give them the better tires,
I think only Ferrari are allowed those kind of advantages.
Not anymore.
But
The stewards were good. We didn't comment on the stewards. Surprisingly, during qualifying,
did they even have to do anything?
they didn't apply as much. Like Checo Perez during his qualifying lap in Q1 went out of the track,
I saw that picture.
but
yeah.
they did not do anything about it. But during the race, they were fairly kind of like the Ocon thing, Ocon Schumacher. They went on that quickly. There wasn't really a lot to do, but Lewis also got warned about track limits. I think they can learn from like the Q1 incident. I think definitely Checo's time had to be cancelled. I think someone else also was outside the track.
I got PTSD from the safety car. So I'm
see,
glad that they clarified the rules on any not all, because I was really wondering what kind of lapped cars would be allowed to overtake, but luckily they changed the rules, so now we all know
Yeah,
that
I
all
know.
of them had to go past.
I know you're happy now because the rules are clear.
Yeah, no,
But-
that's great.
But see, this is the interesting thing. You saw how long it took for the car to actually clear the safety car.
Yeah.
The safety car to come in. And you saw how long it took for the cars to overtake and all of that. It took like, what, 10 laps?
It
over?
took ages, yeah, and the car was right by an exit road as well. Like there was
Yeah.
an opening by
Exactly.
the barrier right next to it.
So you talk about like what happened in Abu Dhabi. I think it just highlights. They said it was human error, but I think they still tried to protect Michael Massey.
Definitely, yeah, they
But I
wouldn't
think it was,
fully admit it, but they said human error was involved, and then human error champion was trending on Twitter, which was great.
yeah, I think it was way worse than they made it out to be.
Definitely, yeah, they were definitely like, ideally in their heads they would have just moved on, which is why that they've made the report come out alongside the race, because they just hoped that it would get smothered with all the other news stories that come out after the race, which kind of worked to be fair, but I don't know, it's just
And, what's
it's
his
just
name?
so dodgy.
Verstappen's like, we don't need to see the full. No, we need to see. I think
What a
that's.
vague-
I don't actually believe that. I think we need to see that because, as fans, we need to know where they, like, what are they gonna do to prevent this from ever happening again? To be fair, all they've
Yeah.
done has prevented it from ever happening again.
But they're just too afraid to admit that it was wrong in the
Exactly.
first place. Yeah.
I think what they've done though with the VAR kind of system, that's interesting. Having like people review the decisions, that'll be fairly interesting. See how it works.
It's all interesting and it's all great theories, but it's all hiding the fact that at the end of the day, the
They had to
FIA
say human
are
error.
afraid of their own mistake, and they wouldn't admit that.
It's
and
not-
even if it was Massey's mistake or whoever's mistake it was, the stewards after the race looked into it, all three of them, five of them, however many there were, and they said, no, we don't see anything wrong, nothing happened wrong here. Leave it.
It was more the case
Like-
of they didn't want to overturn the.
That's what I mean. Out of
If it
pure
was-
embarrassment and
if it
pride,
was-
they wouldn't do it.
If it was
Which
any
is-
other race, I think the Lewis would have won.
Completely, yeah.
But I think based on just that race, he wasn't gonna win.
Which is why they're trying to
Um,
hide it so much. Like,
Exactly, but I think it's interesting to see as well. Like they're going so far to not protect Massey but protect themselves because
yeah.
the way in which it happened, like we're talking about Stefano
Domenicali. Yeah.
and him saying like, oh, we wanted to go to the last lap of the last race and we wanted to be competitive and stuff, and I think that's why they're going so far to protect it because there is that sense of, was it all orchestrated? No, not in the sense that they made Latifi crash,
Yeah.
but they used that incident to choose who won the championship because they needed it to go down to the last lap. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, they.
That's why I actually really dislike the last few episodes of Drive to Survive because you're like, it builds up to a point where you're like, if a safety car had happened, the cars overlapped and Max won on pace, no one would have said anything. In fact, I'd say like,
Yeah.
great end to a great season, but the way in which they did it was just like, that's why I was saying red flag the session. If they'd red flagged it, restarted again, you get some sort of, I don't know. I don't think it should be red flagged.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say.
But I'm saying if, for
But,
instance, they've
yeah.
done that for the racing, fair enough. They can say like, we want to keep everyone safe and stuff, so we'll red flag the session. Just for context, there are more red flags in the last season than like all seasons
Yeah.
before
They
combined.
love the red flag. Yeah.
But it would have been like, if you're doing it for the show, that would have been way better than to do what they did.
True. And interestingly, actually, I saw an interview with Stefano Domenicali and Martin Brundle just before the report was meant to come out. And he asked, like, do we need to regain the fans' trust after what happened in Abu Dhabi, like how important would this FIA report be? And he said, I just had a meeting with loads of the promoters and stuff, and they said we're selling out tickets everywhere. Clearly, we still have the trust of the fans. Which is such a stupid answer. And honestly, the entire interview was horrendous PR. Like, he was just constantly avoiding questions, saying, like, boring standard stuff. So, it was awful on his part. Like, Martin Brundle asked some good questions, but he just spent the entire time avoiding it and saying, like, dumb answers.
I don't think the fans have forgiven what has happened. I think it's more along the lines of there are way more, like, a lot of new fans coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't care maybe as much about it. So, like, I think for us, people who've watched F1 for a long time, most of the community has watched F1 for a long time. I think most of the community is upset. But there is way more attraction for F1 in kind of mainstream culture now, or mainstream media, or whatever.
Yeah, the casual fans are always the loudest ones.
Exactly, they're coming in way more. Like, I know a lot of people who've never watched F1 who are calling me and like, let's chat about the race, are you watching it this week, and all of that. And like, they're going to races and stuff. But they've never watched F1 that much. So they're the people who are actually going to the races, not the kind of, the big F1 fans. I think they're still kind of, they were the ones who were waiting for the report because they were like, we need to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We need faith restored in everything.
So we're going to talk about fantasy, fantasy.
Well, so, yes, we're now, that basically sums up Bahrain, to be honest. There's like, not much more to say about it.
You need to talk about this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so now we're gonna get into the next race, seeing as it's next week. We'll do a little pre-Saudi Arabia segment.
No,
where
leave it on the screen.
No, should I not put it over there? Okay, alright,
No.
fine, I'll leave it. What we have is, first we're gonna review the Fantasy League. So if you don't know, we have a Fantasy League. I'll leave the code in the description of the YouTube video. And the, what am I thinking of? The audio stuff as well. Well, yeah, so do you want to just explain what you did with your team and how you ended up top of the leaderboards?
By a big margin, man. What's the difference between...
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Okay, between
I got
first
283.
and second... Oh, my.
I got 283 and Mohamed got 173. 110 points, man.
It's not looking good.
Oh,
Someone actually used their Mega Driver and they're still fourth. That's unfortunate.
Ooh.
That
Yeah,
feels
so
bad,
the one in second place is 225, I'm 283. My team, it was very simple. Ferrari had amazing pace. And it was obvious they were going to get pole and P2 or P3. So I just went with Charles, Sainz. Charles looked a bit quicker this week than Sainz, to be honest. So I just went with Charles as my double points. And then Magnussen and Bottas because they actually looked rapid. And then George and Ferrari. And I don't know why everyone else didn't do this. It's so obvious. He chose McLaren. Like, why? McLaren looks so slow.
Bro, remember last year, yeah? They were basically getting the same amount of points. In fantasy, McLaren and Ferrari were getting basically the same. I'm not saying that I thought Ferrari and McLaren would be on pace together again this year. But I was like, I'll take the hit on points to just get some other drivers.
Yeah,
because
who did he point? Who did he point in your team?
If what happened to Red Bull happened to yours, that's not my team for this one, hold on.
Okay.
If what happened to Red Bull happened to you, then you would be on like 5 points right now.
Yes, but still, like Magnussen and Bottas would have done better. So it's fine.
Okay, well, I had Gasly. That would have been great. Hamilton did alright for me. He actually got more points than Sainz, to be fair, just about. Leclerc,
yeah, but he's the reason you had to choose McLaren over Ferrari because he's so expensive.
That's a good point.
So you go for like a much better priced driver who's probably gonna bring you more points. But see, that's the interesting thing. Ferrari actually had reliability. Like they look like they have their reliability on point. So it'd be interesting to see as the season goes on. Like it's obviously 23 race season. It's the longest season we've ever had, and so it's kind of a season of attrition as well. It's not just a performance kind of thing. You're going to have off weekends. You're going to have reliability issues, all of that stuff. So it'll be interesting across the season to see kind of whose car fails, essentially. because they will play like Max being 26 points behind Leclerc after the first.
Yeah, true.
He's on 0 points. That is massive, because imagine if they just keep getting P1, P2, all of that the rest of the season, just between them. Those 26 points will... He said it himself, these 26 points are going to play a big part in the end of the season.
Yeah, because it's one thing to finish second. Like, it's one thing winning a race, and you'll get 26 points if you... Like, he could get this 26 points if he wins and gets fastest lap. But if his main title competitor, Max Verstappen, finishes second, they don't mean as much. But if Max retires and he gets first, then that's
Massive,
a huge... Yeah, it's a
points.
big gain. So,
Well, I want to look at our predictions that we made last episode. Because I'm sure there were like... We hadn't seen... At that point, we hadn't seen practice. We hadn't seen anything. We made our predictions like a week before the race. So we didn't really know anything.
Ooh.
And our predictions are... very, very funny.
Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. I was off. Oh, I should have backed Science. I tell you, every time I don't back Science, he does well. Okay, yours, top 3 qualifying.
I got none right.
Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen. That's...
I got literally all my... I got Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen,
driver of the
Russell
day.
as driver of the day.
Okay,
I got
so
0.
all of us. So, and the 5 DNFs as well. So
Oh.
yeah, so we... I thought just a couple days after we filmed, we should add the number of DNFs. I was thinking number of DNFs or number of safety cars to put. We went with DNFs. So we've added that in. I messaged Youssef and we got our predictions in, but like on Tuesday or something, so it was well before the race. So we're gonna start doing that as a thing now as well.
You said Charles would win. I'm impressed.
So I said Charles. I said Lewis would come second, which was close. Obviously, I thought it would be on pace or something, but clearly not. And then George third, which is wrong. Charles Leclerc was driver of the day. DNFs, I was 1 off, which is mad close, but it doesn't count for anything. I don't know how we're doing points for this.
Yeah, just 1-0 basically. I still have a season.
What you saying? I'm 1-0. Alright,
yeah.
cool. So I'm just gonna put. I'll just put M here on this side. Actually, no wait, no. If I just put, I'll put M1 Y0 and then I can
Yeah,
tally.
but you have to put .1 because I have a season over you. I won last season.
Shut up with that. Doesn't
I
count.
destroyed you last season.
I don't have to write it down because I know
You didn't even
remind
win
me
once,
every
man.
time.
You didn't win once. I destroyed him.
Honestly, do you want to say about your fantasy team? Because I didn't actually like when you told me. I still can't believe it now.
What?
About the combination being, like, you know what it is and stuff.
It was obvious. I kept up to date with practice. I never watched practice, and I didn't watch it, but I still looked at the timings and like the number of laps and who's using what tires and all of that. See,
Yeah, no, but I mean,
this
as
is
in the
why I never-
combination of drivers you picked and the points
Yeah.
and stuff.
This is why
That being the best combination.
Yeah. Oh,
You haven't
oh,
said
yeah.
that in the.
So basically, if I had put my what's it called, my mega driver
Yeah.
on Charles, I would have been equal with. I would have been one of the top of the world essentially, like equal to number 1.
Basically, like, not only did he pick a very good team, he picked the best combination for Bahrain. He got like maximum points this week that he could have possibly got without using his mega driver, which is so stupid. Like, classic Youssef. Anyway, why isn't?
See, this is why I never play these fantasy games because I get way too into this stuff, and then I just end up spending all my time doing this. Okay,
Well,
now we have a
so-
lot, but like our idea for next week.
Yeah, now
we
there's
have
actually a
much better
baseline.
idea of what's gonna happen next week. I still think it will be the track. Obviously, isn't exactly the same, so it might be a bit different, but it will be interesting to see. I'm gonna go with Charles Verstappen and Sainz.
Oh, you're going the exact same.
Yeah, but I think Verstappen.
Oh, as long as right.
No, actually, I think Max P1. Max will.
Oh.
Start on pole.
Okay, interesting.
Because they have way better pace in terms of. And then I think Charles will win, Max P2 and Sainz P3.
That is, on the way here, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Obviously, whoever wins gets driver of the day, so Charles. And like 5 DNFs.
5 DNFs.
Fairly similar to what I did last time.
Yeah, it sounds pretty. Okay.
You have to go with Lewis is gonna win.
Interesting.
No, Gasly is gonna win.
Uh,
It could be a chaotic race. He could win.
I will go with Max Verstappen. as
Pole.
pole.
Okay, this is qualifying.
I do think Max will get pole, but then you went with Max getting pole, and I don't want to go with this. No, I'm
Exactly,
gonna back
yeah,
him.
you should go with Sainz
I'm gonna
getting
go-
pole. No,
Do you know what?
Lando.
You know what?
I'm saying Sainz getting pole, and I feel like he could actually do it. So I don't.
I'm going Carlos Sainz second,
Okay.
and I go with. I'll go
George
Charles Leclerc. I'll go with Charles.
And top 3 for the race.
And then for the race, I will say
Is Carlos gonna get his first win?
no. I'm gonna go with. I want to go with the same 3, but I don't want to.
Just go with the
I'm gonna
same
go with Max
thing.
Verstappen, Charles Leclerc comes second, and then Carlos Sainz third. With driver of the day being.
Whoever wins
Everyone's
probably
like
gets it.
mad boring. You know, I want to go like. Nah.
Go with Gasly.
I'll go with Max. He has too many fans for them not to give him driver of the day if he wins. And DNFs, I'm gonna go with 3.
Seriously, Saudi. I think it's actually. I was thinking of going higher.
Higher?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it'll be too chaotic. Oh, actually. No, I'm gonna stick it. I'm gonna say everyone's gonna play safe. Alright. Do you wanna do the outro? We'll call it there.
That's how much. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next week.